Oh, is this the time of our interview?
Yes, it is.
Oh, sorry, you must be...
Vimy Ridge veteran.
Oh, Mr. Wills.
Yes,
nice
of
to
course.
meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, Mr. Wills, just to get the basic information first, when did the famous Battle of Vimy Ridge occur?
Well, on April 9th, on Easter morning, the Canadians opened fire and the battle ended on April 12th.
Easter morning? That's awful! Why did this battle take place then?
Unfortunately, this battle took place because early on in the war, Vimy Ridge gained great importance because of the great view of the whole Douai Plain. This is why the Germans took it over in 1914, barely 2 months after the war started.
Wow, that sounds like a really important spot to me.
Yes, indeed, it really was an important spot, Mr. Matar. This is why the Germans were quick to heavily defend this area with deep defensive positions. This means that they had set up bunkers, caves, passages, heavily protected by concrete, machine gun emplacements. During the year of 1915, the French had tried to regain control of Vimy Ridge, but without success. In fact, 150,000 French soldiers died.
That's very interesting. But if a great, powerful country like France couldn't seize back the land, how did the Canadians do it?
That's a very good question, Mr. Matar. Thanks to the leadership of Major General Arthur Currie and Lieutenant General Sir Julian Byng, the Canadians were able to be very successful in this battle. Before this Canadian attack, battles had little planning, but Canadians changed this. All other attempts to regain Vimy Ridge had failed, except this one. For me, this proves that Canada did a great job planning.
You say that they had great preparation, planning, and strategy for the battle. But what exactly did they do?
First of all, when Currie said, "Take time to train them," the Corps did exactly that. In fact, they taught small groups and sometimes even individuals if they didn't get something. They also built a replica of the battle area where they would rehearse exactly what they would do. Maps were also given out to every group so everybody knew exactly what was the plan. Then there were the super sophisticated tunnels that the Canadians developed. These underground tunnels allowed the troops to be protected from projectiles and also allowed the injured to be brought back safely. All the underground tunnels were equipped with water pipes, telephone lines, and most also had electricity. And this is an example of the Canadian tunnels that they built.
That's brilliant! But despite all this great planning, there still must have been many people who lost their lives during this battle.
Unfortunately, Mr. Matar, this is always part of war. 4,000 Canadians died and almost 7,000 wounded. This isn't as bad as the Germans, though. They had 20,000 casualties on their side.
Very interesting. What was the historical significance of this battle in the First World War and in Canada's history in general?
Regaining Vimy Ridge was very important because it would allow us to penetrate deep into enemy territory. It was also very important to take possession of Vimy Ridge because, as previously mentioned, it would allow them to have a good view of the entire Douai Plain, so it was easy to know what was going on. Here we can see the Douai Plains and in front the Vimy Ridge. You can imagine how you can have a great view of everything going on from up there. This is why the Germans took this territory early on in the war and fought very hard to keep it. It was also a defining moment in Canada's history. Many people say that this is when Canada felt capable of greatness and also capable of emerging out of Great Britain's shadows. General Ross even said, "In those few minutes, I witnessed the birth of a nation."
Oh, that's interesting. Now, take us through what happened starting on May 9th until the end of the battle.
At 5:30 a.m., Canadian Corps attacked while artillery further behind was firing so that they would keep the Germans in their bunkers and not shooting at the Canadians. Then, the first wave of men, 50,000 of them, stormed the ridge and took over most of the German territory. After 3 more days of intense battle, The Corps took Hill 145 and the Pimple, the two most iconic and two highest points of Vimy Ridge.
God, everything seemed to have ran perfectly. I'm guessing there were no flaws in the attack.
Well, actually, Mr. Matar, there were a few small flaws. Nothing big, but the first flaw being that they wanted to destroy more German machine guns than they actually did with their artillery. The second flaw was that their tanks kept on breaking down in the mud. Then their soldiers got disoriented because the hills had so many craters in them and so many explosions. The worst part is that the medics had the same problem and couldn't find their way back. Other than that, Mr. Matar, I would tend to agree with you saying that this was a pretty flawless plan.
Wow, that's a lot of planning. But why did they plan so much for this particular battle?
First of all, they knew that the Germans had a very strong defense and would need something very special to be able to break through. Then there's also the fact that they learned a valuable lesson at the Battle of Somme in 1916, where the British launched a massive attack. However, they were just told to follow their officers and nothing more. When their officers died, they had no clue what to do. This led to 60,000 men being either dead or wounded. Sir Julian Byng did not want this to happen again.
Were there any memorials made for those who gave up their lives in this battle?
As you can see, the Vimy Ridge Memorial consists of two towers standing out 120 feet. On one of the towers, there's a maple leaf that represents Canada, and on the other one, there is a lily that represents France. There are 20 statues in the memorial, but probably the most important one for us is the Mother of Canada. The Mother of Canada is a statue of a woman that is sad, sculpted out of 30 tons of limestone. It represents the entire country of Canada mourning for the death of Canadian soldiers. And like in most memorials, the names of those who died are on the walls of the towers. However, this is not part of the initial plan. 11,000 names of Canadians lay on the tower walls. In fact, not just those who died in the Battle of Vimy Ridge, but any Canadian who died starting from 1930 in France.
Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Willis.
No problem, it's my pleasure.